out
Okay.
there.
I pretty much, and that's why I able to do as many YouTube videos as I can because I don't really have. The thing is whenever I'm sitting here, I don't have to actually watch the equipment the entire time. I'm sitting in my truck, and so I can pass my day with watching Netflix if I want to, or doing whatever else I want to. But because it's a 12-hour shift, you can only get so much of Netflix before you're just like, I'm done watching this stuff. So I decided to create YouTube videos.
All right, we're live, and hi everybody. I'm Mole, Unholy Mole, and this is Russ, also known as Frustrated Atheist. I'm sure you know both of us. Today,
Hello.
I just figured we would look at a few AIG articles and see what these numbskulls have to say about. We're gonna look at evolution today and see what these guys think of evolution. Okay, where is it at? Uh. I just had it on there. So what happened? How's everybody today?
How's it going, people? If there's
There's a few
anybody
people
watching,
watching.
awesome. If
There's a few people
oh,
watching.
okay.
Hey, hi Spooky. How's it going, buddy? All right.
Let's turn that off.
Yes, ding a ling a ding ding ding. All right.
Yeah.
Evolution is supposed to be the process by which the first cell evolved into the diversity of life we see today. Natural selection and mutations are considered its driving force. However, evolution has never been observed. Bullshit. And natural selection and mutations cannot add the information necessary to change one kind of creature into the other. I find that complete and utter bullshit. What do you think?
Uh, repeat what that was.
Okay. Evolution is supposed to be the process by which first cells evolved into the diversity of life we see today. Natural selection and mutations are considering its driving force. So far, they're true.
Mm-hmm.
However, evolution has never been observed, and
Oh yeah,
natural
that's bullshit.
selections and mutations cannot add the information necessary to change one kind of creature into another. No, I would agree mutations can't add that information through one mutation, but you add up mutations over time, and that's a totally different story, right?
Yeah, but not only that, but natural selection, all it is just nature is when we say evolution by means of natural selection, it
Mm-hmm.
means that evolution occurred by natural means. That
Right.
natural things had happen and cause these creatures to mutate. Um, it's not like an actual thing that goes at a creature and says mutate or something like that. It just is the creature's response to whatever naturally occurred.
Right, exactly. And then it goes on to say, can Darwinian evolution by common descent adequately explain the origin, diversity, and complexity of life? Absolutely. I have no doubt about that. I mean, we may not understand everything at the moment, but I mean, that's where the evidence leads. Correct? In
Well,
my
well,
eyes, anyway.
in the way of evolution, evolution is is a fact. It's something that has occurred. We know this
Hmm.
because all the predictions that were made by Darwin and other people who said that if evolution is true, then when this is what we'll see
Yeah.
has occurred. For instance, one of the things that Darwin proposed was that if evolution was a thing that have occurred, then we will see by means of natural selection. Then we will see transitional forms um, somewhere along the in the geological column.
Right.
Not but like a year or two after he said that, you have Tiktaalik being found, if I'm not mistaken. And
Mm-hmm.
Tiktaalik was an actual transitional form. And we kept finding more of them. And then another prediction that was done before the results were actually found was, if it's true, then we will find more less complex organisms
Mm-hmm.
down further in the geological column of time, and more complex creatures going upwards.
Right.
So
And you know how they're
what is
always.
it?
Oh, so go ahead. I'll
So
finish what
what
you're
is
done.
it that we found in the Cambrian era of the geological column? We find nothing but plants. What do we find in columns after that? More complex creatures all the way up.
Yeah, and they
So,
start getting more and more complex as the layers go up.
mhm.
And I get it. I always get a kick out of say they always say there's no transitional fossils, but what do you call like Neanderthals or Homo? The different kinds of humans. That's evolution in action. Some
Yes,
people
and
say
that's
no.
what.
Some people say that's the transition right there that they say doesn't exist.
Yeah, we see this, but
They,
the way they
right.
counter this, is they say, "Well, you're seeing that from your worldview," and so they posit that these creatures are
Oh, so they're saying we're
strictly
using.
this or strictly that. Like, for
So
instance, with Neanderthal, they say that that is strictly man that's hunched over or whatever.
yeah,
But
I get what
the
you're saying.
problem that we get to is there are certain fossils that have been found where one creationist camp says it's strictly ape, one creationist camp says it's strictly human,
Right.
and there's no consistency between them, and
Exactly.
so we have problems with that.
Right. But they like to try to find the simplest. I'm talking about creationists, not actual evolutionists. I'm talking
Yeah.
about creationists. They try to find the easiest way that they can explain it and it still makes sense to the world being, what, 6,000 years old, or what do they say, 6,500? They change it sometimes, so it's hard to say how old. But I know it's 6,000 years, give or take.
Yeah. But so then we have the fact that they can't even agree upon the fossils that are found, whether they are one way or the other.
Right.
And we're supposed to, so anybody who's coming in at this is supposed to say, okay, I want to believe what you're telling me. So which one is it? And you have some people saying, oh, it's this, and then other people saying, oh, it's that. It's like, how am I supposed to believe what you're saying
Right.
if y'all can't even decide which one this is?
Exactly. And you know how they like to try to throw science under the bus and say, well, they don't really know, they're just hypothesizing. Well, they
No.
hypothesize until they have a working theory, until the results are reproducible, and that's what makes sense. Then it is a hypothesis. I think a lot of people that aren't in the scientific world like to confuse hypothesis with theory. What do you think?
Yes, because in the way you can actually figure this out is by whenever they say, oh, it's just a theory. Just a theory is when you use theory colloquially, then everything that you say is technically a theory. But a scientific theory is way different. A
Well,
scientific theory, when you say that I believe that this is this, that is the hypothesis. So
right,
then you have to go and test it. You have to gather up data, figure out, okay, is this plausible? Then
right,
test it.
exactly.
If you don't get the results that you desired,
Then it's
you
still
figure out where you
hypothesis.
went wrong. You
Yeah,
figure out where you went wrong, and then you try to fix it. If it then goes through, you test it again, and you test it a few times. Then you give it to other people. in the form of either open science or peer review.
Right.
And then um, then they sit there and do it. And once it has been proven that this is correct by the testing of multiple people, then you get what's known as a scientific theory, which is the highest thing a theory in science it could be.
Right.
Tatted atheist, he says, love how I didn't get invited.
You want to come on
Well,
in? Hop
tatted,
on in.
yeah, tatted. He made a post and he just tagged a couple of people to try to get somebody
Yeah.
interested.
You're
And
welcome to come in
so
if you want, though, buddy.
send Unholy Mole a message and he can give you the link to get in.
Yeah, tell him I'll send him a DM. Stop screen sharing. I've been meaning to chat with him anyway, so that'd be a good time.
Yeah.
Yeehaw!
Oh, he's at work. He's not gonna be able to come in. He's at work.
Oh, okay. Well, tell him that I might stream later, and I'd be more than happy. Ask him what time he gets off work.
Well, he can hear you. He's
Oh, yeah. What
he
time do you
said
get
this
off
in the
work,
chat.
sir? Hi, Mad. The enemy.
Mhm. Yeah, Matt said that in general, a scientific law is the description of an observed phenomenon. It doesn't explain why the phenomenon exists or what causes it. The explanation of a phenomenon is called a scientific theory. Well, the thing I do see some issue with this because yes, the scientific laws describe what is observed. We observe things, and however they work, that is the laws. These are the constants of the theory of the scientific theory itself. Now, actually, my bad. I don't. I don't think I really. I think I just misunderstood it for a minute. I think he said that correctly. Never mind. But
No one's
yeah.
snorting blow, but I wish I was. No, I
Do
have a
what?
stuffed up nose right. He said he's snorting blow. I have a stuffed up nose right now, so it might sound like
Oh,
that. I
uh,
wish it was me, but it's not.
yeah. Mm. But yeah. So there's a lot of actually. Mad Dog wants me on the Red Eye one day to talk about evolution. He doesn't know exactly when, but he wants me on there to talk about evolution.
Actually, I'm gonna send Matt a link. Maybe he can maybe you guys can discuss it between yourselves. I'm gonna put it in man. I'm gonna put it in the Mad Mole locked hangout, so you know where to find it. Okay. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Oopsie.
By the way, Ted Atheist said, oh, Ted Atheist said that he'll be home 7:30 his time,
Oh
which
yeah,
is East Coast.
I'll be done by then. I might stream later though. I was just
Yeah, he
bored
gets
and
off 30
figured out.
minutes. He gets home 30 minutes after I get off, which means I will be busy doing things so that way I can have some quality fiance time. Oh, he says that, and Mad Dog says that he can't right now. Kid's doing chores right next to him.
I don't give a fuck about that shit. Your kids are always loud, mad. Who cares?
Yes, the thing is when you
Your
have
kids are
children,
always loud.
it's going to be expected that they're going to be loud.
Yeah. Kids are always loud. That's a bullshit excuse.
Oh, Lordy. Well, what else do we want to talk about then?
I don't know. Do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
Mm, uh, I can't think of anything right offhand, but we can definitely see what the chat has to say. What do you think we should
Okay.
talk about?
Yeah. Give us some ideas, chatter.
Oh, and Tatted Atheist, you're lucky because you have a basement. You see, here where I'm at, we don't have basements, so we don't get to lock them up. We have to lock them out up in sheds out back.
Yeah. Matt does that sometimes too. Not in sheds, just outside.
It's like, go play in traffic.
Right. Kids these days don't play outside like they used to. You know that?
Yeah, they tend to stay inside. Which, well, I mean, it depends because there's still a lot of kids who do play outside. I know that my fiance's son, whenever he's over at his grandmother's house, um, he is constantly outside on his bike riding with his friends, which is a great thing because he normally spends a lot of time with adults, and a kid needs to be around other kids.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
yeah. Of course, learn social skills and stuff like that. You know.
and
The way I look
so,
at it.
yeah, and so, and then on top of that, he's outside and he's being active and whatnot. So that's always a good thing. And but there are kids, which he is also one of them, where he will stay inside if he can, and just do nothing but play video games. And I have no problem with playing video games whatsoever. I
Mhm.
myself am a gamer. I tend to play a lot of I used to. I now am so busy I don't ever have time to anymore. Even on my days off, I'm working. I'm always doing something. So, um, but I do play video games, and as a kid, I spent a lot of times playing video games because we would always move, and that's what I always had was video games. So I was like,
Right.
you know, what's the point in going outside making friends whenever I'm gonna move again? So
You're a Nintendo. Oh, you're younger, aren't you? So you're more like Nintendo 64 era kid, right? When you were a kid.
no, 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 no. When I was a kid, I played Super Mario on the Super Nintendo. I
Okay.
played on the original Nintendo, the Sega Genesis. I grew up around all of that.
Do you remember Dreamcast? I think that could have been kick
Yes.
ass if they would have put a little bit more time and effort into it.
Well, the thing is it wasn't even the time and effort. The Dreamcast was
Yeah,
Sega's
they got beat out by PlayStation.
perfect. Well, Sega was the Dreamcast was the perfect sign off with Sega because you got to think at the time they were already losing traction. People
Right.
were losing interest in Sega, and so finally Sega put out the Dreamcast, which was really before its time type of technology type
Oh, it
of
was way ahead
stuff.
of its time, dude.
And because you got to think most of the game systems were still doing cartridges and whatnot. And then so with that, um, what ends up happening though is because they were already too far behind, it just got overwhelmed with the newer systems and the newer games and all this other stuff. So
Because
it
PlayStation came out
just
shortly after that, didn't it?
oh yeah, and PlayStation then took it by storm.
Yeah, they dominated the market after that.
Oh yeah,
So,
one of the things I think that is a big nuisance with PlayStations is the controller. That's
mhm.
why a lot of people do like the Xbox. Um, the Xbox has a controller that is more ergonomic for your hands. And if
Yeah,
PlayStation would have done that technology way back in the day and kept it up,
you
they
think they
would
could have
definitely be
been the
smoking everyone.
leaders? Yeah,
Oh,
that's the thing with
no,
PS.
PlayStation was the leader for a while.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, Sega had or not Sega, Nintendo had some really good game system and whatnot, game systems and whatnot. But at the time PlayStation came out, it was the leading.
You know what I think?
Everybody had to have a PlayStation.
You know what I think we went wrong is they marketed the fucking Wii towards children instead of towards adult gamers or young adult gamers, and it was too
Do what?
childlike. I think
What was?
they marketed the Wii wrong. I think Nintendo could have put a little bit more effort into it, and it could have been a little better.
Well, I mean, the Wii was great because it was
It was
perfect
fun.
for
Don't get me
adults.
wrong.
Well, you gotta think you had games like bowling and stuff like that, which were games
Yeah,
that can be marketed to both adults and
family.
families because you can now have your family get together and do whatever. Hold on, Tatted, what's leading right now? Which one? PlayStation, Xbox, or and now these days PC. PC is
Yeah,
really
PC's
really
probably
gotten. Well, no. Well, I guess if we're just going on consoles, then PC's out of the running. But
yeah. Okay, let's go.
as far PlayStation, he says is in the running, is in the lead. Um, PlayStation is in the lead. But at the same time, there are downsides to both systems. Um, for instance, with Xbox, all you need is to be able to hook up to an internet connection, and with PlayStation, you actually have to download the PlayStation Store. You have to do all this stuff. From the last I can tell, I haven't had a PlayStation or heard a lot about PlayStation for a while now, but PlayStation, as far as I know, does that. And Tatted, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not strong in PlayStation stuff, but I do know quite a bit about Xbox. I'm currently have one. Uh,
A 360 or a one.
I have the Xbox One.
Well, if you ever feel
I
like
do.
giving me your gamer tag, let me know and I'll give you mine.
Oh yeah, I can give you mine.
I'll
I'll
DM you
do it
mine.
off air.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right, man. I'll DM you mine.
Yeah. I have the Xbox One. Unfortunately, I really wish I had the more updated one.
Me too.
And as far as what Ted had just said, I would definitely personally love to have a PC for gaming. But if I'm going to do that, I'm going to build mine, and that costs a lot of money. So I've got to wait until I can afford all of that.
Right. Mad put in there that PS4 is the only console with a good baseball game, and he's right, dude. Fucking Xbox One has shit baseball games, dude. Shit.
Well, the problem with that for me is that I don't like the sports games. I don't play them.
What do you play mostly?
I play things like Assassin's Creed,
Oh, cool.
Arkham series.
Hey, do you like Neverwinter by any chance? I'm looking for someone to play that with me.
I've never
Do you
heard of
like
Neverwinter.
do you like Dungeons and Dragons type RPG games?
Hold on one second. Tatted, that sounds awesome. We could definitely do that. Once I start, once these bills start kind of slowing down a bit, like getting once I get the wedding all taken care of and all the other good stuff, we will definitely have to get together and build the PC for me.
I'm gonna build me a new PC too when my school money comes in this fall.
But what were you saying? What about Dungeons and Dragons style RPG?
Oh, do you like Dungeons and Dragons type games like RPGs, shit like that?
I do like me some RPGs.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I do like
Because
RPGs.
Neverwinter's free to download. It's open map. You can go wherever you want. You can pick whatever, whether you be chaotic good or chaotic neutral, or evil, depends on what missions you take. It's a really good game, dude. I think you'd enjoy it.
Is it anything like all like the what is it, World of Warcraft and stuff like that?
Similar, yeah, similar.
Okay. My problem right now, otherwise I'd have a much larger game selection, is the fact that I've ran out of space, and now I have to wait until I can afford to get a bigger a hard drive for the Xbox, which is one of the biggest downfalls of the Xbox, is the fact that once you run out of you only have
Yep,
so
you're
much
stuck.
memory.
You're stuck.
And
Yeah, I'm the same
yes,
way. I need to get an external terabyte because that fucking 500 gigs goes up fast, dude. Fast.
yes, it does. And so because those gigs go pretty damn quick, I'm trying to save up to where I can get a few terabytes.
Right. Yeah. Did you price it? How much is it?
What, the hard drives?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've looked at both. Getting a regular hard drive, which the only downside is you have to format it, but that only takes like a few gigs to at the max to format. And I've also looked at the pricing for the actual Xbox hard drives, which are uh, all. I mean, it ranges from anywhere depending on how many gigs of memory you're wanting. It can range anywhere between 60 to like, well, I think the most expensive one I saw was like 300, but that was for like a ridiculous amount of terabyte. But it just I'm just waiting on being able to actually afford it, because paying for the wedding and paying for all this other stuff is really, it kind of weighs down after a while. And then shortly after the wedding, I'll have my horse paid off, which means $200 um, we'll be spending $200 less, and there's just a bunch of other
How much
bills
does it?
I've got
How
to.
do you have your horse boarded somewhere?
Yes, I do have my
How
horse
much does
boarded at
that
a boarding
cost? How
facility.
much does that cost a month for you?
Per horse?
Yeah.
Well, for me it costs because we have two is 450, but it's like 225 a horse
And
at where I'm at now.
that means they feed them, run them, wipe them down, brush them out,
Norm
all that.
Normally when you're paying for partial board, which means that you're doing everything, it's usually you do everything yourself.
Okay.
But because this where we're at now is actually a property that belongs to my fiance's friend, and she does this for everyone though. Where what she does is one feeding. She'll do
Mm-hmm.
one feeding either morning or night, and she'll do one turnout. And so we just have her doing the morning feed and turnout, because both of us are usually at work. Depending on where I'm at, I can either be leaving at the house around 6 o'clock, or I'm leaving the house around 4:45, 5 o'clock, and sometimes even sooner. So she usually does the morning feeds and turnouts, and then we just come in later and do the evening feeds and turnouts, except for on weekends.
Cool.
On weekends, we usually come in both feedings.
Cool.
And mediocrity maze, yes, horses. I have horses, two of them.
Kind of are they
Do what?
like quarter horses or
Yeah,
what are they?
they're both quarter horses. Around these parts, you own the majority of the ones you'll get are quarter horses and Arabians, and you do get Mustangs from time to time, but and I've seen maybe one or two thoroughbreds. Other than that, you don't get very many other types, other than the draft horses, which are just workhorses, the big, humongous, like Clydesdales and stuff like that. Um, but oh hey, sorry, Dad Atheist said Amazon has a 2 terabyte for 65. That sounds
That ain't
good.
bad at all. That's cheap, actually, man. I know a
Yeah,
buddy of mine paid $100 for 1 terabyte. So,
yeah,
oh yeah.
but
I just started a new
uh,
job, so it'll be a couple weeks before I get a paycheck. So,
yeah, but so So yeah, I went with her up to New Hampshire last uh ending of October, beginning of November, um, or beginning of September, ending of September, beginning of October, and we went and saw. We went to where she used to board her horses at because her friend works out there,
Uh-huh.
and up there they'll have things like Morgans and warm bloods and things like that. And it was funny because her friend's like, "Hey, I got something that'll that'll make you think that you're back at home." And inside this round pen was the only quarter horse they had up there. Um, and she's like, "Ta-da, quarter horse!" And a lot of the reason is because, well, like for us, like for our horses are acclimated to this heat. Taking them up north to where it's cold is a big is no, it's just no. Uh, Last winter it actually snowed here, and it wasn't very much, but it was snowed, and we went to go take care of our horse because at the time we only had the one, and he was vibrating. He was shaking so much,
Oh, wow.
and so we're like, oh crap. So we went and bought him a blanket that day and blanketed him.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not
Um,
used to that kind of weather down in fucking Houston, so.
yeah. Well, I'm not exactly in Houston, but
Well, give or
trying.
take, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. This is literally usually how my conversations go whenever I'm talking to people who aren't from around here.
Yeah, give or
I'll sit
take.
there and be like, they're like, so where do you live? I'm like, oh, it's a small town called Hitchcock. Where's that at? Oh, it's just right outside of Galveston. About 15 minutes away from the
Oh,
seawall.
I know where Galveston's
Where's
at.
that at? But they'll say, I've had one person say, where's that at? And I'm like, Houston. I live in Houston, and
Yeah,
so it,
my
it gets to
sister,
the point. Oh,
my
go ahead.
sister used to live in West Columbia. Do you know? Have you ever heard of West Columbia?
I've heard of Columbia, but I'm not sure of West Columbia.
Oh, it's about a half hour southeast of Houston and about um a half hour or 45 more minutes from the coast. Does that sound right? The Gulf,
Uh,
Gulf
well, the
might be an
Gulf's
hour. Might be an hour.
well, it just depends on what part of the Gulf you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, if you're talking about, see, Houston is northwest from me, so I'm technically southeast of Houston.
Okay.
So that's why I'm saying it depends on, and it takes roughly about 45 minutes to get to downtown,
Oh,
depending on the
wow.
day. So it depends on where exactly. If I'm not mistaken, uh, have you been over there?
Not in a long time, no.
Um, because it depends on if I know some of the other little cities that are around it. I could
I'll
probably
look it up on the
tell you.
I'll look it up on the map and see what's
Okay.
near it. Da, 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 da.
Yeah, because without knowing what the towns are around it, I can't know for sure.
Hmm.
Eh,
Where is West Columbia, Texas? Right next to East Columbia. Go figure. That's
right?
that's a dumbass fucking. I guess you ask dumb questions, you get dumb answers, huh?
Right. Let's see here.
It's in Brazoria County.
Oh, okay. Then I know roughly where it's at. Because right now, where I'm at for work, I'm technically in Brazoria County. So it is probably somewhere close by Lake Jackson.
There is a couple lakes right by it, so.
Well, no. There's a town that's called Lake Jackson.
Oh, okay, okay. I was confused. Oopsie. Pretty much 36 runs right next to it.
36.
Yeah,
Okay.
36 runs right next to it. There's a place near it called Wild Peach Village.
Mm. That sounds like a
Hmm.
really, really. If that's a town, that sounds like a really, really small place.
It it was about, I'd say, if I remember right, it had like 50 to like in between 50 and 75,000 people.
Mm.
77, or that might be the, never mind, that might be the fucking zip code.
What's it say?
Zip code 77486.
Yeah. You said it's West Columbia?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There we go. I'm technically 29 miles away from it.
Oh, okay. So you're not too terribly
Okay,
far away at
so
all.
okay, so it's close by 35. Okay, so let's see here. If I zoom out on the map, uh, damn it, Brazoria. Okay, it's from Brazoria. It's close to like Brazoria. See, there's Brazoria County, which is what I'm in,
This is
and
Brazoria
there's
town.
Brazoria City.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's not too far from Lake Jackson.
Yeah, that happens.
Um, it's closer to Angleton than Lake Jackson, but it's not too far. I work in Angleton from time to time as well. So your sister lives over there? That's pretty cool.
Well, she did. My sister's dead now, but she did when I
Oh,
was younger. Yeah.
yeah.
No, my sister's dead. She used to be cute though. I
Yeah.
I don't know
Technically,
how
right now,
I don't know
I'm
how good
40
she'd be
minutes away.
looking now. Just
That's
saying.
fucked up.
But she's been dead 20 years, so sure she's looking real rough. Sure she's looking real rough.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
so what's
yeah.
what?
Go ahead.
I watched a couple of your new videos. What do you got in the works for new videos? Do you have any ideas?
Yes, I'm actually in the process of working on one. I've got part of it done. It's
I
just like today, there's too much traffic going around me.
Yeah,
Like for instance, I would park in the back of the place I'm at now, but there are people who are working in here, so it just makes it completely terrible for audio quality, even worse than
yeah,
what it already is. So I am waiting until I can get to where it's a little bit quieter. But it is a video that is about it. A theist has challenged atheists to give reasons for their atheism, and after rewarding his challenge, I'm answering the question where I had to look into some things that I haven't looked into before, like I had to pretty much look into the Big Bang Theory
mhm,
to know all the different aspects of it and be able to know what the redshift is, know about the cosmic background radiation, and know about everything that goes along with that. But and then I also am trying to go off of all these different things about like planetary formation and whatnot, and how all of this in order for uh, in order for me to even believe that there is a possibility of a god, all of these would have to be false, and in order
right,
for them to be false, you have to prove that these predictions are incorrect in any way, shape, or form,
right,
and which is all extremely hard to do. Um, because there are so many predictions that were made by just the Big Bang alone. And
yeah,
so, if you can falsify that, if you make it to where that is, or if you can make that to where that is wrong, that those predictions are wrong, and what we've observed is wrong, then by all means do so. Because I would rather know something to be true than to be
Right.
false. And the
Right.
fact
Exactly.
that this has yet to be to be proven false, I'm going to remain on what side of the field I'm at. And so but his original thing was to post a comment with my evidence, but or with my arguments. But I'm doing a video on it, and then I'm going to post it in his comment section.
That'd be cool.
Um, but I looked at a lot of his different his responses to people, and they seem to be a lot of arguments of incredulity and argument of ignorances, and I'm just like, yeah, you're not going to win me over with those.
Right. It's gonna take more than that.
Yeah, and he's he puts on his thing that he's I guess knows philosophy, and so
Big
I
deal.
don't. So I'm not going to
Right.
get into a philosophical debate with him about this.
Right.
If you're going to want to change my mind, or if you're going to prove what I that my atheism is in any way, shape, or form invalid, then you need to prove to me with actual evidence that everything I see is wrong.
Yep.
And I know exactly what he's going to say. I know one of the responses that could be said after all that. Well, that doesn't mean that God didn't do all this, which is true.
Right.
God could have done every single bit of the Big Bang theory, of the Big Bang, of evolution, of planetary formation, caused it to happen all the way it was. But the problem then is you have now excluded your own Christian God, because the Christian God does not say, "Oh, this is how I did things." He also doesn't say, "Oh, evolution took that before all of this is what happened with life or anything." There's no way that he said that, and especially because I have a strong feeling he may be a young earth creationist. That definitely goes against everything he believes, because he takes the Bible to be literal. So so I know that, but if he does say that, all I can say is, why go that step beyond what we know for facts?
Right.
In which case, that's when in comes in the arguments from ignorance, incredulity, and possibly even special pleading, because it's going to get into the whole entire, oh well, all this had a beginning, and everything that has a beginning, someone has to create them. And so enter then special pleading, because it's like, oh well, no, because my God's eternal. And
Right.
I've had to actually get on one of my videos, and one of my videos in my comment section, the person who I responded to comments on there and gives me this entire wall of text to read and cipher through and whatnot. And I'm like, this is great. So I'm having to take it down point by point from each point that he made, which each point was humongously long and has several different things bundled into it. Which the first one had to do about what was it? It was about, give me a second, I can actually see it. It's about pretty much the parameters of life and how they all, just happen to be so right and whatnot. And I had to stop him with that, because these parameters that he's going off of are the parameters for human life, not life itself, for just human life.
Right.
And so he goes on with then talking about how physicists know that all these different forces happen in less than 1 millionth of a second after the Big Bang, and how to explain all these stuff. And these are his um, some proof for God's existence, at least the Christian one, he says. And then his second one is about his second point was about the Big Bang, how it's illogical without the existence of God, and all these other different things. In here, he and so far I have done for just covering, mind you, the 2 points, the first 2 points, which he has like 4 or 5 of them. I have done 11 texts, breaking them down point by point. 11 of them. No, 12, my bad. 12 responses so far for just one comment. And so this is getting it's getting to the point where it's like, oh my god, how. And he does some arguments from incredulity again, and some arguments for ignorance. And in one of my responses to him, I actually said, what was it? I tell him, I was like, the being you described as God, literally by definition, does not exist. In order for something to exist, it has to be present in time. We know time had a beginning, so saying he resides outside of time is illogical. A being also has to be physical, meaning having properties you can touch. If the being doesn't, he does not exist. Saying he exists outside of those parameters is special pleading, which is
Right.
another logical fallacy.
He's
So
just
what does
fictional character.
so what does this leave us with? A being that doesn't exist in time or have any properties, which means he only resides in the mind of others, meaning he is merely a thought. And so I'm just, having to go through this, like I said, point by point. And it's like, oh my god, why? Because I would be fine if these were texts that were done back and forth. If he started with one point, just one single tiny point, and we went back and forth with that, until we got all these points out and all addressed. So but he didn't. He had to send me this wall of text, and now I'm like, oh god, okay, I'm gonna break this down point by point. And the only reason why I'm doing this is because, judging by his voice alone, he sounds like a kid. And so because he sounds like a kid, I'm not going to just do what I would do if he was an adult, which would be, hello, wall of text. I'm not gonna read this. Have a good day. But because he's a child, I don't want him to be to not have the actual information. In which case, he's also, in some of his points, he's provided an article from creation.com, and I'm like, oh no, child, what are you doing? This is no. One of the worst things to do is to get your scientific information from a young earth creationist site, where in their statements of faith they say that if there's any piece of evidence that goes against what they believe or that goes against scripture, it is to either be completely dismissed or ignored. And I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that. So I have to go, and when I get to that point, I'm going to have to tell him, using a young earth creationist site for scientific evidence is beyond stupid, really, because this is not something that can be explained away by young earth creationists, because they don't believe in the time that's necessary for things to happen. Not only that, but they just completely ignore all the evidence that points away from Scripture.
All right.
And then he also did one about this. Apparently, this flame that comes out of Jesus's tomb every year on Easter, and so that's something I've never once heard of ever. So I had to.
Which Jesus?
Apparently, the Jesus, the one and
Oh,
only
okay,
the
the Messiah
Messiah, the Lamb of
Jesus.
God. And so I've never heard this claim before. So I had to actually look it up. And apparently, what happens is every year on Easter, there is a flame that supposedly comes out of the tomb, and they light candles with it, and they go away from it, or they send it off to the city and whatnot. Um, but this one piece of evidence, so I actually ended up looking through. I sit there and scroll through a bunch of different things and come across this one thing that it said that what actually happened is one of the guys who actually lives there says that the flame itself is not miraculous, because what happens is these priests are, they go around they go around the tomb, and they put beforehand, I'm guessing they put a oil lamp in there. Now, this is very interesting because this lamp has been burning for about 1,500 years. So the only thing I can think of is that they keep replenishing the oil that's in it or whatever. But this lamp is burning for 1,500 years, and all they do is they go in there and they light candles with it. He's like, there's nothing miraculous about it. This is something that the locals know
So that's literally
is
all
a
it is a
sign.
candle lighter?
Exactly. It's
Wow.
just a lamp.
Huh.
And he pretty much said that to the locals, this is nothing miraculous. It's just
Huh.
ritual, and it's definitely it does have significant historical meaning because this lamp has been burning for 1,500 years. But other than that, there's no there's no actual um there's no actual miraculousness to it.
Right.
So so I was like, and this is one of the things he promotes for saying that there is a God, is like this. He's like, there's flame that's yada yada yada. It's like, no.
Right. Now, I have a
So
question. I've thought about this a lot. Okay, you know how there's all kinds of miracles in the Bible and all that? Do
hmm
you think it was nothing more than an illusionist that they just didn't understand what illusions were back then?
well,
Or
really,
or do you think it's or do you think it's fucking written written from a older perspective and they've just embellished it? Which one do you think it would be?
I think it's neither. I think it's made up bullshit. But if I had to choose out of those two,
Yeah.
all these different miracles are just magic tricks.
Yeah, that's what I was
Um,
thinking.
for
Illusionist.
instance, bringing back the dead. It's funny that there's not many cases of the dead coming back to life,
No,
especially if
thank
they've been
God.
dead.
No pun
Yes,
intended.
like the whole entire thing of bringing back Zacharias or whatever. It's funny that was the one and only time that they ever met up with each other. That's the only time that that's ever happened. Later on down the road, he didn't sit there and say, "Oh, hey, there's Jesus. Yeah, he brought me back to life," or anything like that. No, there was no. Once that occurred, that was the last time they ever saw each other ever. So there's those, and then you have this whole entire Jesus taking some dirt, spitting in his hand, and rubbing it in the guy's eye to cure
So,
his
do you
blindness.
think there's natural explanations for the phenomena they witnessed, like the burning bush and all that stuff, or
The thing is
striking the rock for water? Do you think them are just embellished stories to make it sound
well,
good?
those are Moses' stories, and we don't have any actual um concrete evidence that Moses even existed.
Yeah, I think he
And
was.
so,
I think he was a mythicist just as much as Jesus was.
yeah, and so you're asking about these miraculous things that occur to people who we believe to be mythical.
Hmm.
And it's not a far fetch to say that the entire story, including the burning bush, is mythical. That nothing
Yeah,
in it
it's
is
totally
actual.
mythical. Have you read any Richard Carrier?
No, I haven't.
You should check it out,
But
dude. He talks about the mysticism of Jesus, and
yeah,
it's really good, dude.
yeah. The only thing is I'm going off of arch- what archaeological evidence that we have for the Moses
Right,
story,
there's none.
and there's none because we don't have these chariots are supposed to be at the bottom of the Red Sea. We don't find them. Uh, we're supposed to have evidence of people wandering the desert for 40 years. We don't have anything like that because you
Yeah,
have to have these
there.
people.
You would think there'd be some kind of evidence left behind of fucking such a large group wandering the desert, right?
Yeah, and you would have different things of different pieces of evidence
Uh-huh.
of this happening. We have actual settlements of Canaanites in the desert, but we don't have people traveling around for 40 years and any evidence of this. And they don't, you would think that they would leave pottery behind, but the only thing that we find pottery wise or anything like that is from actual settlements in the desert that were
Right, right.
Canaanites. So you don't have anything in this story that adds up to what we can find with archaeological evidence. You
Because
don't
every
have
story
anything.
contradicts another story, and there's no evidence of any of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yep.
Oh shit. Well, I think
And
I'm gonna wrap up for now, but I'm gonna cook some supper for everybody. But do you guys, anybody interested in streaming in a couple hours? Maybe we can think it out better and have something to actually talk about.
right.
You got any plans tonight?
Do I have any plans for
Tonight,
tonight?
yes.
Oh yeah, my plans are to pretty much uh cook dinner and eat with my fiance and watch a movie.
Okay, well, let me rephrase that. As long as it's before 70 on plans.
Before 7?
Yeah.
No, I don't have any
Okay.
plans. I'll be here at work. But
All right. All right. Well, I'll get a hold of you before then. Then that way you can join in. All right.
all
And
right,
we'll
sounds like a
figure out
plan.
some talk. You think of some stuff, and I'll think of some stuff. And anybody else that wants to join, like Tatted, for instance, you should be off work by then. You can join in too. You think of some stuff as well. You all have a lovely day. Sorry we didn't have more stuff to talk about, but it was kind of an impromptu stream. Thank you for coming. Bye bye.